All right, show me the money. NFL picks for the divisional round are coming up here in just a second. Join me today, somebody whose team I thought was going to be in this round when we booked this spot here. Troy Mauriello is back for the first time since week 2. Troy, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Mike. You and me both. That's like we were just talking off air. If they didn't get it done this year, I don't know when they were ever going to get it done. Yeah, kind of thought I'd be coming on. We'd be talking a little Cowboys Lions, maybe. Previewing that game, the Cowboys' potential path to the Super Bowl and everything like that. Instead, it's another early off season for the Cowboys. Not something that I'm not used to, but probably a little more unexpected than this year. So yeah, happy to be talking with you, but under these circumstances, not the happiest guy in the world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, last week when we did the picks with Joe Dall'Orizio, I took the Packers. I said, okay, I'm getting 7.5. I have the hook here. I think the Cowboys win by a touchdown. I think like this. They said the one thing at the time I said here. The one thing that scared me if I'm a Cowboy guy is that like the Packers have no pressure in this game and the Dallas has all of it. And it clearly looked like that's what happened because like they got themselves down so early, so quick. It's just like they looked like they got hit by a truck and no idea how to respond to it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the Packers in that game as well. I just thought the way that they had been playing, especially how Jordan Love had been playing the last 7 games of the year, I like the Packers as well to cover the spread and keep that game kind of close. I thought the Cowboys, might even get a punch in the mouth early, but would do something in the first half to kind of respond and kind of steady the ship, and then maybe would pull away at the end and win that game, by a touchdown or something like that, or by a field goal. The way that they came out, and then the way that the offense just could not respond at all to the Packers, and the way that the defense couldn't really get a stop from midway through the first quarter until midway through the fourth quarter. Just a completely uncharacteristic performance from them. But given what I've seen from this franchise in my lifetime, the last 20 years as a fan, it really was not uncharacteristic at all, and I should have seen it coming, honestly.
Yeah, I think the thing even more surprising in the offense, I mean, we've seen the offense come small in like these spots before, is that the defense, which beat up everybody during the season here, just
Mhm.
went completely like dead against the Packers here. I mean, Micah Parsons never be found in this game. Like
Mhm.
they were
Mhm.
guys were running free in the secondary throughout, very poor tackling here. It's like this defense. I mean, Dan Quinn's talking about getting interviews in this cycle. That's not a good reflection on him.
Yeah, yeah. Micah was very busy preparing for a podcast that he had this upcoming week, so I think maybe that affected his game planning a little bit. But yeah, this defense they just were no show the entire game. Like I said, to not really make a stop from midway through the first quarter to midway through the fourth quarter, you're never going to win very many playoff games like that. Couple that with the offense just really having an uncharacteristic game, not scoring until the final play of the first half and really handing the Packers 14 points directly in the first half. It's a recipe for disaster. And the defense really let them set the tone right off the bat. With a 75-yard touchdown drive, Packers go right down the field, only faced that one third down, and it was a third and short. The defense let them set the tone early. That game comes out, and the Packers maybe go three and out. Maybe they get a sack, get the crowd into it. That could be a completely different game. The Packers could realize maybe the moment's too big for them. Instead, they go right down the field and they go, "Well, that was easy. We can do this again." And they did do it again 6 or 7 more times on my defense. So yeah, I mean, listen, the blame goes equally, I think, on the offense and the defense. But you give up 48 points, 41 of them coming from your defense. You're not going to win very many playoff games.
Yeah, for sure. Now the next question here, which has not been settled yet as of recording time, I feel like knowing Jerry Jones' history of these decisions is going to take a couple more days here. Is like
Yeah.
what happens with Mike McCarthy because obviously he's had at least 12 wins each of his first 3 years. He's won the division title twice. They have
Hmm.
won one playoff game of that span. I believe I saw a stat on Fox's broadcast said this is the first time in big NFL history a team had won that many games 3 years in a row, not failed to get to at least a conference championship game here.
Hmm.
Logic would dictate that this is a spot where, with the options available on the market here, whether it's Bill Belichick, whether it's Mike Vrabel, whether it's some of the great offensive minds out there, that you make a change here and try and salvage what's going on here before things go completely off the rails here. Like, do you
Hmm.
think Mike McCarthy is gone, or do you think Jerry finds a way to give him one more year?
What I think should happen is he probably should be gone. I was talking to you off air. This was the one scenario I think where they get rid of him. You look at, like you said, 12, 3 straight 12-win seasons. I sat through a decade of the Jason Garrett era. I've seen what kind of mediocrity looked like, and this team hasn't been mediocre now since really, really, since McCarthy got here. He's been a phenomenal regular season coach, but like you said, one playoff win now. He's been here for 4 years. They've made the playoffs 3 straight years, haven't even advanced past the divisional round. That kind of speaks for itself. But, losing a game like you did to the Packers and coming out so unprepared for this game when every other home team that played this weekend, came out firing, got some momentum early and ended up winning the game. And you're the one team that doesn't do it when you're coming off of a 16 game home win streak. And like you said, you're playing the youngest team in the league. That's inexcusable. And I think that's the one scenario where I'm like, maybe we move on from this guy because he's clearly just not going to get it done. What I think they will do, I think it's a little bit more murky. Uh, Jerry has shown kind of propensity to hang with guys. You look at him with Jason Garrett. He hung on to Jason Garrett probably about 4 or 5 years too long, if we're being honest with you. And I would not be shocked if he did the same. Dan Quinn is certainly going to be on his way out, whether he gets fired or moves on to a head coaching job. So that they could just put the blame on him and bring back Mike. But I will say, like you said, this is one of the more historic coaching cycles of all time. When you look at Belichick, when you look at Harbaugh, when you look at Vrabel, there's so many options out there. Not even to mention some of the hotshot offensive coordinators that we could see. I will say, whatever guy you bring in, you got to make sure that he can get out of Dak Prescott what Mike McCarthy got out of Dak Prescott this year. Because outside of the postseason, Dak had his best year. McCarthy seemed like he was able to find a system that worked for Dak. I'm not moving on to a guy just to move on to a guy without a plan. And like moving on to a guy like Bill Belichick, who knows, what his offensive game plan is going to be like. I'm sure he'll, delegate that to someone else. But unless he's guaranteeing me that I'm going to get that MVP level out of Dak Prescott that I saw this year, I'm not so sure I'm going with that candidate. I'd almost rather go with, an unproven, young coordinator off like the Shanahan coaching tree and try to figure things out from there. So we'll see what they do. What I think they will do and what I think they should do is probably two different things. He'll either stick with them or he'll make the big hire in Belichick. But we'll see. We'll see. I guess it's going to be a very fun couple of days.
Yeah, I think with him, I feel like the longer this drags on, the more likely is McCarthy stays, which will definitely
I
hurt
agree.
Cowboys fans. And I feel
Yep.
like he's probably back channeling right now, maybe talking to Bill, maybe talking to Harbaugh, saying, "Hey, what's your interest level in coming here?" Because I don't think he wants to get rid of McCarthy for the young coordinator. I think he wants to have like an easy say, "Okay, this guy is one. This guy's going to take us next level." I think he feels like I'm in Jerry's mind, like I'm not gonna get rid of this guy after one bad game. It's like unless I'm getting a clear upgrade. I feel like that's the way Jerry's processing it.
Yeah, and like you said, if he's going after a guy like Belichick or Harbaugh, it's going to be quickly because those guys have so much interest already. Both of those guys have already interviewed for jobs, and there's going to be more jobs opening up now. He's going to act quickly and try to get those guys before someone else does. So yeah, like you said, if this lasts until the end of the week, until into next week, and they still don't have a resolution on McCarthy, I think the signs are pointing to that he is coming back. And yeah, I agree. Jerry is someone who right now wants that instant gratification. He's not going to be a guy that's going to put up with a young head coach for 2 or 3 years who maybe has to rethink some things and work out a new roster and maybe make the roster a little bit younger and build through the draft. Like Jerry doesn't have time for that. Jerry is 81 years old. Like he needs to win right now. And I think the way that in his mind he can win right now is by making that hire of Belichick, Harbaugh, stealing the headlines and saying I'm just a head coach away. So if they do move on, unfortunately for me, and I think for a lot of Cowboys fans, they're going to go for that big fish when I think the smarter decision would be to hire, a young offensive mind and try to work from there and try to find someone who can unlock Dak Prescott again and then keep that going into the playoffs. But unfortunately, that's not really how Jerry rolls. He prefers the headlines, as we know.
Yeah, it's like I don't think you're gonna get Bobby Slowick on the phone. I don't even think Mike Vrabel's a big enough name for him. I feel like he wants like the biggest big name if you're gonna make it.
Uh-huh. And to be honest, both of those guys, yeah, Sloak was the guy I was referring to before. Those two guys, like I would prefer those guys 100 times over Belichick and over Harbaugh. Even Harbaugh has clashed with every single front office that he's dealt with. From Michigan, the athletic department to the 49ers. Like that's what he does. Belichick is one of the biggest egos in the league as well. You're telling me that they're just going to get along with Jerry Jones? I don't see it. I'd rather go with someone like you said, Vrabel. I think would be a good hire. You talk about a guy who's going to get a team motivated for a playoff game. That's Mike Vrabel. Look at the Titans a couple of years ago, making that run all the way to the AFC title game. He clearly can do it. Or like you said, a young guy like Bobby Slowick, who you have a good feeling can unlock that potential in Dak, or can continue unlocking that potential in Dak all the way through, and maybe making this offense a little more dynamic than it was, to where you're not relying on Dak Prescott to have this superhero type performance to win a couple of playoff games, and you can, kind of run the ball a little bit better and maybe do some more innovative things on offense. But I don't see that happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, we got to wait and see what Jerry ends up deciding to do here. But we do have 4 games coming here this weekend, and the first one's a bit of a bust. I mean, apart from the Ram line games, we have 5 blowouts in here. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping the matchups look good on paper for the most part here. Maybe
Mhm.
Texans, Ravens, a little bit of a mismatch. Packers, 49ers, Packers have the mojo at least. I think we're in for a better weekend.
Yeah, yeah, and you look at the AFC. I mean, the quarterback play remaining in the AFC: C.J. Stroud, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Like, those are four of the best young quarterbacks in the league today. Obviously, Mahomes and Allen been around, and even Jackson been around for a little bit longer. But those are we're going to see some elite quarterback level play, which I feel like we haven't seen much of in the NFL this year. So really looking forward to that. On the NFC side too, you got a couple of really solid quarterbacks. So but I'm really tapped into these AFC games. I think they're both going to be really, really solid games.
Yeah, I think for sure. I'm excited to do this here. And since you have you here, we're going to go ahead and do some picks here. And our buddy Joe Daloizio was here last week. We picked all 6 games last week. So he had a 3-3 week. So he went pretty much a split here. You had the Browns laying a 2.5 on Saturday. That didn't work out. You had the Chiefs on Saturday night. They won that game outright and covered. You had the Steelers getting the 10, didn't like the double-digit points. They ended up losing by 14. Yeah, it's Packers. That we know what happened there. Lions nice 3.5. I thought we were good. He was good on that one. Then it sort of fell apart late when they kicked the field goal. And Bucks plus 2.5. Troy, I think your one consolidation is that the Bucks made the Eagles look very stupid last night.
Yeah, it turns out all that fighting between the Cowboys and the Eagles was just fighting between two completely overrated and overmatched teams who just completely fell off a cliff. I don't know if I'd rather be an Eagle fan or a Cowboy fan, though. The Eagles kind of saw this coming for like 2 months, whereas the Cowboys kind of got shell shocked out of nowhere. I think I'd rather take their fate and at least know it was coming. But yeah, it was good seeing the Eagles at least collapse as well.
The Eagle thing, though, I feel like it's much worse in a sense because they had that moment and they beat the Chiefs the Monday before Thanksgiving. Everyone's saying like, okay, this is their year. They're going to win the Super Bowl. And then they just went splat basically right after that.
Yeah, I mean, they were a team that, right, all we were saying about them was like they're not playing great, but they know how to win games. And you felt like, man, once they can kind of turn it on, they'll be unstoppable because they have this winning pedigree. Obviously, went to the Super Bowl last year, and now this year it seems like every close game they play, besides the Jets, they're winning. And then they kind of went the other way, and they just started playing, horrible football, and were losing games, and weren't even playing close games because they're getting blown out by the Giants and by my Cowboys and losing to the Cardinals. Like, it was a disaster for them. And yeah, I mean, their season just completely flipped. And now I think there's questions about their head coach as well.
Yeah, it's funny because I think God kind of sounds like making questions here. Like if Philly decides to move on Sirianni and McCarthy stays, there's gonna be a lot of fun in Dallas. That's not really buzzing for days about that.
Yeah. And can you imagine about a month ago saying that the only NFC East head coach that was going to survive the season was Brian Dable? I mean, how crazy is that? The Cowboys and the Eagles played a month and 6 days ago, I believe. So saying both of those head coaches could be let go is something that I don't think anyone saw coming. So that's just the harsh reality of the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. Here, I go to my picks now. I also went 3-3 because Joe and I had 4 picks in common. I was with them on the Browns, the Packers, the Lions, and the Bucks. I had the Dolphins. I thought they would actually keep that close. I was wrong on that one, and I was all over the Bills. I felt I said all year. I said the Steelers are a fraudulent team, and Bills helped me out there.
Looking at your Dolphins pick there, I mean, outside of the Cowboys, what a disappointment from the Dolphins. I was with you. I thought the Chiefs were a little bit overmatched in this game. I didn't think the weather was going to impact either side as much as people were saying because both teams were playing in it. Turns out it only affected the Dolphins. The Chiefs kind of ran whatever they were running. The Dolphins decided they were just going to completely go into a shell and not run anything and not trust their quarterback. And I mean, there's some major questions for them because they look like a team that if there's a hint of adversity, they're just going to fold. They need to be at home basically and get home field advantage to really have a shot at anything. That's why I thought that Bills game was just so huge for them because it's the difference between basically playing a home game in the first round and then a home game again in the second round to going to KC in the -30 temperature is just such a disappointing end to a season for them where for a while they looked like legit Super Bowl contenders as well.
Yeah, and as far as the Dolphins go here, like I knew we were in trouble with here for the Dolphin picks here. When I see the broadcast, when I see them coming on the field, I see Tua's kind of like this, like I'm like
Yeah.
he has no desire to be out here in this cold.
Yeah, and it was just like one team. I mean, I read that completely wrong because I thought it was like both teams are going to be dealing with this. They're still football players. Like, some of these Dolphins guys could have played in Wisconsin in college. Who knows? They're used to it. And I was completely wrong. The Chiefs were totally fine, and the Dolphins looked like they did not want to be there. Really, from like you said, from when they ran out of the tunnel, could not believe that. Just a totally disappointing performance.
Yeah, so to reset here on the year, I'm 32-27-1. The Challenger are 30-30. We're both 3-3 in the playoffs here. We're gonna continue here. We're gonna pick all four games. We're gonna go one at a time here, and then we'll just alternate picks on each game before we move on here. So
Okay.
we're gonna go ahead here and start on Saturday afternoon at 4:30 on ESPN and ABC, their first ever divisional playoff broadcast. The Ravens are hosting the Texans. The Ravens are laying 9 points here. So Troy, where are you going with this game?
Yeah, the Texans in their usual spot, that Saturday 4:30 spot. Uh, I'm going with the Texans. I like them. 9.5 points is a lot of points for a playoff game for a team like the Texans that can score. You talked about the Steelers getting 10. That was a Steelers offense that was terrible on the road against the Bills. This is a Texans team that we know they can put up points when it matters. Getting 9.5 leaves them the option of losing by 2 touchdowns and getting a backdoor cover, even losing by like 16 points, getting a backdoor cover at the end there. So they don't even necessarily really need to play close the whole way. Just keep it within 2 scores the whole way, and then give me a shot at the end with C.J. Stroud to go down the field and score. Obviously, going to be tough for them to win, but I like the Texans in this game. And again, Lamar Jackson is a guy that I just have not seen it in the playoffs yet from him. He's 1-3 now in his postseason career. I'd rather see him do it before, and I do think he will do it, and they will win this game. But I just think it's a lot of points for Houston to be getting on the road. A Houston team that's playing phenomenal since CJ Stroud came back. They're scoring 30 points a game. He's been crazy since he came back in the last 3 games. So I like the Texans. Give me the Texans in this spot, getting the 9.5.
I'll go with heads up with you here at the Ravens. I'll lay the 9 points here. And I think this is a spot here where I love this football team. When they have actually had to play a game, and I'm not counting week 18, they didn't play anybody against the Steelers. When they've actually tried, nobody's been close to them for about 6 weeks. They have been blowing people out of the building. They have the Dolphins come in here, the 49ers lay on Chris here. This is a rough spot for Texans going into their first road playoff game here. I get the backdoor covers possibility, but I'll trust the 9 with the Ravens here. That's my thoughts on that game.
Yeah, you'll kind of know what's going to happen with this game early. Like when we saw the Ravens play the Seahawks and the Lions, I remember both those games were over by like midway through the second quarter. I feel like we'll kind of see what's going to happen here. Like, are the Texans going to hang with them, or is this game going to be like 24-3 early, like or late second quarter, and it's just over? So I feel like we'll know kind of early if this is going to be a Ravens cover day or not.
Yep. Game number 2, Saturday night, 8:15 on Fox. The Packers heading to San Francisco take on the 49ers. 49ers laying 9.5, the biggest number of the week here. Troy, where are you going?
I'm going to flip here and I'm going to go with the 49ers. I just think that the Packers, listen, they looked incredible last week. Jordan Love, like I said, is playing out of his mind. I think a lot of what happened last week was more due to the Cowboys' incompetence than it was the Packers. I just think that the Cowboys played so poorly in that game that the Niners are not that type of team. The Niners are a team that can win playoff games, actually, that is actually going to be prepared for playoff games. I think that the Niners jump out early. I just think that this defense is a different animal that Jordan Love's going to be facing. Like I said, he's been playing out of his mind, but this is just a different story. So I'm going to take the Niners laying the 9.5 because I just think they jump on the Packers early, and I find it tough for the Packers to score with them. This is also a Packers defense that is not very good. Again, I don't know what my Cowboys were doing against them last week, but this is a pass defense, especially for Green Bay, that's not very good. I can see the Niners scoring easily on them and then making it a lot more difficult for Green Bay to score. So I'm going to take the Niners laying the huge number at 9.5.
Yeah, I'm right there with you here. I mean, Kyle Shanahan has 2-0 against Matt LaFleur in the playoffs. We've seen that happen already here. Plus, the 49ers are built to exploit the Packers' weaknesses, especially on the ground against the run here. See a big Christian McCaffrey day. You'll see a lot of Debo on option plays here. You'll have some play action stuff going on with I've already thrown a Kittle like down the seam here. I think this gets ugly very quickly.
Yeah, I just think that like you said, this is a Packers team that was happy to be in the first round, now to be in the divisional round. Again, I think that they're just happy to be here, and I think this one's over pretty quickly.
All right, next up here, 3 o'clock on NBC on Sunday here. One of the Bucks or the Lions is going to be in the NFC Championship game. The Lions are laying 6 points at home here. Troy, where are you going?
Yeah, again, I'm going to lay the points with the Lions. I don't love doing it, but Detroit, if they were going to, I just feel like if they were going to lose a playoff game and look terribly, it was going to be last week. You know, all those storylines, all those jitters, a lot of the pressure in that game was on the Lions, honestly, to prove that you letting Stafford go was the right decision. He's already won a Super Bowl. He's coming back into your building. All the pressure's on you to win that game, and you win that game. And Jared Goff was phenomenal in that game as well. Your defense really stepped up in the second half, I thought. The Bucks, again, another team that's kind of just more happy to be here. You know, if you would have told a Bucks fan in September you're going to reach the division round and lose on the road, they all would have signed up for that. This is a Lions team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and I really want to see what they look like against the 49ers. So I'm going to take the Lions in this game. I just think that they're the better team, and I think that going up against that Tampa Bay defense, which made Philly look so rough on Monday night, scares me a little bit, but I do think that the Lions will cover the spread of 6 points.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on the Lions here. I feel like last week was their spot where they were a little nervous here. Now they've gotten the playoff game off their
Exactly.
here. This is a big step
Mhm.
weight class for Tampa too. The Eagles are spiraling. We all saw it happening in front of us here. Detroit's playing peak football here, and Detroit has the home crowd behind us. They might be the best home field advantage in this round. So I think I love that.
Mhm.
And less than a touchdown, I'm happy with it. I think they win by 7, so I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and nothing to discredit the Bucks, like you said, but again, that Eagles team just didn't want to be there. They looked like a team that would have opted out of the playoffs if they really could have, because they just did not want to show up. Give them credit, Tampa Bay, for coming through and winning that game, but I'm not all that impressed with that with them knocking off the Eagles in the first round. So yeah, I think we're in lockstep here with the Lions.
All right, last game of the week here. Sunday night at 6:30 on CBS. The game of the week here. The Chiefs and Bills, another playoff matchup here. Bills laying 2.5. It's in Buffalo for the first time. Troy, where are you going?
This was the toughest game for me to pick, to be honest with you. I actually do think that both of these teams could still be Super Bowl contenders, especially with the way that things are kind of shaking out now. But give me the Chiefs laying the 2.5 or getting the 2.5 on the road. Going to be very interesting to see Patrick Mahomes in his first road playoff game. Against in that crazy environment in Buffalo. This just for Buffalo fans, this has got to feel like, man, this is the one time we can get these guys. This is our best shot at getting these guys. And for the Bills, this is probably their best shot at reaching the Super Bowl that they've ever had. I just think that the Chiefs are just going to figure out a way to win. The Bills, I think, are the better team. They're playing better. Their offense looks better, but I like that Kansas City defense is operating at a really, really high level right now. I mean, I know the weather conditions were a factor, but the weather conditions are going to be a factor in Buffalo as well. They shut down Miami last week. I think that they'll force Josh Allen into a turnover or two, and they'll figure out a way to win this game. I really think so. The like the 49ers have been the bugaboo for my Cowboys, that they can't get over the hump against the 49ers. I just feel like the Bills are the same way against the Chiefs. And even at home, I find it hard to take Buffalo in this game over Kansas City, who's just been tested in these spots. I'm gonna take the Chiefs.
I'm going here. I'm going to lay with the Bills. I'm going to lay the 2.5 points at home. I think their time has come here. We have not really seen it the last couple of years. The Bills have not played the Chiefs in the playoffs. I think they didn't play them last year. They had the crazy finish at the overtime 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Bills have had their number the last few years in the regular season. They've won in Kansas City. It's the first time it's been in Buffalo. I think it's a big deal here. Bills are the hottest team in the league right now. They've won 6 straight games. And I mean, this team right now, they're clicking. They have been much better since they fired their offensive coordinator, been more focused on running the football here. And I think the Chiefs have been vulnerable. They've been wobbling for a while here. They've not really had the opponent take advantage of them yet. Miami and Nicole was not up for the chance. I think the Bills are going to be up to the challenge here. They will send the champs home. So I'm going to go with the Bills laying the points.
Yeah, if it doesn't happen this year for the Bills, they're another team where it's like if it's not this year, then when's it going to be? Like you said, you finally get the Chiefs at home. You haven't had them at home in the playoffs just yet. Can you take advantage of that? And if it's not now for them, I don't know when it's going to be, because you're getting this game at home. You could get another home playoff game depending on what happens in Baltimore. But even so, you'd be going to Baltimore on what a 7-game winning streak at that point. So if it doesn't happen now for the Bills, I don't know when it happens.
All right. So to reset the picks here, Troy is actually, let me get my picks up here. So I am laying the, so I'm sorry here. I got my long thing. So Troy +9, Texans, 49ers laying the 9.5, Lions laying the 6, Chiefs laying the 2.5. So now we'll go over to my picks, which I already have up here. So put those back on the board here. Heads up here, Ravens laying a 9. We are in lockstep on the Niners and the Lions. I will lay the 2.5 the Buffalo Bills. I'm going 4 favorites this week. So those are your picks for the divisional round of the podcast here. So coming up next week, we're going to be joined by my buddy Justin Diaz, Giant fan. We're going to do the 2 conference championship picks here. Plus, love to get his perspective on the whole Wink Martindale fiasco, what happened over there.
Yeah, another disaster in the front or in the coaching staff for the NFC East. The NFC East is just in shambles right now. You got the Cowboys and the Eagles falling apart. The Commanders are the Commanders, and then you got the Giants with all their drama right now. Just a really rough couple of weeks for the division.
Yeah, for sure here. And Troy, thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. People want to follow you on social media. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me on Twitter. That's at Troy Mauriello. The last name is Mauriello. You'll probably see a lot of tweets about negative tweets about the Cowboys and St. John's. But if you're a Cowboys fan or a Red Star fan, definitely feel free to give me a follow.
Yeah, I mean, I meant to ask you at the top. I forgot. Let's do it now here. How do you feel about year 1 of the Rick Pitino experience?
I'm feeling great, actually. It feels so good to actually have a real head coach on the sideline for the first time, really in my life as a St. John's fan. You know, they've hit a couple of stumbles here lately, but or at least over the weekend, but they're getting better. You know, that was the one thing that I think we all knew was going to happen with Rick was it was going to take some time, but they're going to get better. And you look at the team that played Michigan, who ended up not being very good and getting run out of the gym at MSG 2 months ago versus the team now. It's a completely different team, and I just hope that we can continue making those improvements over the next month or so, go into March strong, and hopefully, get a decent seed in the NCAA tournament and make a run and or at least win a game in the NCAA tournament for the first time since I've been a fan. So definitely feeling good, feeling confident in Rick. Team's getting better. Schedule's not going to get any easier. The Big East is one of the best conferences in America, but there's a lot of opportunity for some big wins, including and I know the podcast is going to go out after this, but a big game against Seton Hall tonight. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, definitely feeling good about the Red Storm.
The podcast should be out by the time that game starts here. But I think you're looking for the statement game for the Pitino era. Say, okay, here's our arrived game. I think if they could beat Marquette on Saturday at the Garden, I think then you could get a lot of people very excited.
Yeah, and like they've being 4-1 in the conference for the first time in 23 years is an incredible accomplishment. But they have opportunities to build on that, and like I said, this conference is going to give you so many chances for these big resume wins. Marquette, UConn, Creighton, who they just played, even Seton Hall, who's looking really good right now. Villanova, like there's so many solid teams in this conference. Every game in this conference outside of Georgetown and DePaul could end up being quad 1 or quad 2. So if you're looking for a way to build your NCAA tournament resume, playing in the Big East certainly helps because you're going to have a lot of opportunities to build that resume and make some statements and hopefully they can get to that top 4, top 5 in the conference, which I think is attainable right now, which with how things are kind of shaping out. So we will see, but definitely feeling good.
Yeah, I mean, they still play St. John's. St. John's still plays DePaul and Georgetown 4 times. So, like, as long as they don't blow, I don't think they should blow any of those games anymore. I don't think that will happen to Pitino.
No, exactly. And you just give them, I mean, it's hard to say just give them 4 wins, but you give them 4 wins, that's 8 in the conference already. You play 500 in the rest of your games, you're winning 12 or 13 games. So that's got to be the blueprint. But those games are almost as important as the, quad 1 and quad 2 resume builders, because if you lose one of those games, it's a quad 3, it's a quad 4 loss. You can't be affording to take at this point. So those games are almost as important as the big ones. But yeah, with Rick at the helm, I don't see this team having those kind of mental errors and losing those type of games that they lost under Anderson, under Mullen, under Lavin. I don't see that happening. So we will see.